Welcome back to the One Goal Podcast, episode 3. Today we will be talking with Jordyn Fisk, a sophomore at Crestwood High School. She is a two-sport athlete, an FCA leader, and so much more. Her story is amazing. So many good things that I took away from this, and I think you will too. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to the One Goal Podcast. Today we have Jordyn joining us, and it is actually our second take of this because the first time I tried, I failed to get the audio to work. So take 2, let's try this again from the top.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to get to know a little bit about Jordyn, and we're going to ask her 10 quick questions that I feel like are very beneficial to learn a little bit about her. So, Jordyn, what is your favorite Bible verse?
Well, my favorite Bible verse is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
Yeah, one thing I really like about that verse and that we talked about in the last time that we went through this is that God always has a plan for you, and it's, I'm already stuttering. And God already has a plan for you, and everything's already destined, so you don't need to be afraid, and you can just have faith. And we really went deep into that in the discussion questions, so something to just remember. What is your go-to pregame meal or snack?
Well, I have a couple. So I like to do strawberry slushies with like a protein powder in them, and then I do another protein drink, and I always have an apple before or like in between softball games.
And are your strawberry slushies homemade?
Yes, and they're with our own grown strawberries, so they're even better.
Yum. And is the apple do you guys have apple trees?
We do, but we usually buy those because we don't have Honeycrisp apple trees, and I am very picky about my apples. So.
Yeah, Honeycrisp, I like that. They're good. Yeah,
I do too.
We had a lot of apples on our apple trees this year, so I've been kind of just pounding those, and those are pretty good too. I don't exactly know what type of apple they are, but they're good.
You know, if they're good, they're good. They work.
Yeah, they do. Okay, what is your favorite worship song right now?
Right now it is Praise by Elevation Worship.
Yeah, I just listened to that song after our first take, and it was really good. And one thing that really came to my mind in that is the other day I learned the definition of Yahweh. And Yah stands for inhale, and Way stands for what am I trying to say here? Exhale. And I thought it was really cool how you're just praising God constantly every time you breathe, and that just kind of, I pictured that as I listened to the song, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Okay, who is your biggest inspiration in life?
That would definitely be my parents, both my mom and my dad. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just like their work ethic and like the way they go about things with like a Christian point of view and everything. It's really cool.
Yeah, that is, and it's awesome that you grow up in that type of household and you're able to not really struggle, and they're there for you, and they are strong Christians, and they got your back the whole way. What's your favorite place to relax?
Mine is on my hammock. It's very peaceful outside, and that is one thing that helps me relax a lot, so.
Yeah, everybody in this podcast is like, yeah, my favorite place is the hammock, and I'm like, I need one of those. And
yes.
I'm gonna have
yes, you do.
I'm gonna have to convince my mom and dad into that. Okay,
Yeah.
What is one thing you can't live without?
Well, obviously Jesus Christ, but my life would be so different without softball, so that would be another thing.
Yeah, I like how you were the first one to kind of word that it's Jesus, and I thought that that was really cool that obviously if you didn't have him, just your future and what would happen, and just that's awesome that you have that first over everything, and not that the other athletes don't have Jesus first, but they just didn't mention it. So that's really cool. What is your favorite book outside of the Bible?
Mine would have to be the Baxter series, but I like a lot of books, so that was a hard one to choose.
Yeah, and didn't you say that there was like no certain book you could pick out of that series?
Yeah, no, I definitely couldn't pick one out of those series. They're all so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your dream vacation destination?
Ooh, that would probably be Tennessee because I'd want to go see the mountains and like go hiking and zip lining and be like active. But then I also would probably want to go to a concert down there, like a country music concert.
Awesome.
I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and you said that you've been ziplining before?
Yes, yep. I've gone on a couple small ones, but nothing like through the mountains. I've just gone at like the Wisconsin Dells and at a little amusement park in South Dakota.
Oh yeah, that would be a blast.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your favorite way to unwind after a game?
That would probably be sitting in the hot tub and talking to my mom about the game.
Awesome. So when you're talking about the game, are you just kind of talking about things that you could have done better, or just is there any certain things that you specifically talk about?
Well, so a lot of the times it's like what happened that game, and like if I get frustrated, I always talk it through with her, like what made me frustrated, how I can help my team get past that next time. But then also like if I had any huge milestones, I'm usually pretty excited, so I talk about that. Or like even all of my mistakes, I go through all the mistakes I made and figure out a plan to work on those the next time I go up to the field, which is usually the next day. But work on a time and a plan to fix those errors.
Yeah. And one thing you're gonna kind of learn about Jordyn is she has quite a pre-game routine, and from this she has quite an after game, like rewind, chill, and just she has some awesome routines that you'll be able to hear about. So this leads us to our last question. Would you rather eat Chipotle or pizza right now?
Ooh, right now, I'd probably go for Chipotle. But if I had to choose one that I had to make at home, it would be pizza.
Yeah?
For sure.
And when was the last time you had Chipotle?
I just had it this past weekend, so like 3 or 4 days ago on my way home from a softball tournament.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about Jordyn, now we're going to jump into some of the longer questions with her. So, Jordyn, the first question is, how do you live out your faith during the intense pressures of competition?
So I pray before games, like all the time, just for God to give me peace and to help me through the game, to give me the strength that I need to get through it and to lead my team. And then this past season, my past high school season, I started writing a Bible verse on my wrist before every game. Like I would just pray about it and God would put a Bible verse in my head and I would write that on my wrist, and whatever it says, that's like my key word for the day or key phrase for the day. And I always, whenever I look at my wrist, it just gives me peace and helps me to remember what I need to think about for that game.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. And another thing about Jordyn is when she's playing, she's definitely the loudest. She's cheering. She's always encouraging. And from the fan point of view, she never looks like she's nervous. She's always, cheering on her teammates, being a good leader. And I'm pretty sure as we go into these questions, you'll learn a little bit about that too. So get excited. Next up is, what role does your faith play in helping you overcome mental or physical barriers in sports?
Yeah, that's a good one. It plays a huge role for me. Competing is hard, and you know that. I know that. I'm sure everybody watching knows that. It takes a lot out of you, and especially when you play a team sport where there are a lot of frustrations. Like it could be you're mad at yourself, you're mad at your opponent, you're mad at your teammates, or even like the ump or the ref. Like I've experienced frustration at every single one of these like groups or people. When this happens, I have to like remember to calm myself down. I have to like take a moment, pray, ask God to give me the peace and the strength again to get through this and to get myself away and just like back in my good headspace of being a Christian athlete. Um, and like just so that I don't do anything that I regret. And so when I do this, it helps me and it just like moves me through this struggle or through this frustration or whatever I'm feeling. It helps me to get through it and to get back on the other side, like I said, of being a Christian athlete. For example, like this past weekend, I just played at a scrimmage with my teammates. I was extremely mad at the ump because he made 4 calls in a row that I completely disagreed with, and they could have changed that game tremendously. Um, and like to say the least, it was a rough game. I was mad, my teammates were mad. There was a lot of tension because of how upset everybody was. And so I just took I just took myself, I gave myself a minute, and I was catching at the time. So I just sat back there. I was completely silent for like 2 pitches, and I just prayed that God would give me the peace and the right headspace to get through it. And he did. And I got straight through that inning. I went in the dugout and I took a couple deep breaths. I prayed again, and I was good and ready to go by the time it was my turn to bat, which was like very shortly after that. So it's just crazy to me how fast God can work in those situations. And I also remember to give God praise, even when I'm super upset with how I'm doing. If I do get a good play, I give the praise to God because I know that I couldn't be here if He wasn't like if He didn't give me the talent or the strength to do this. And so anytime I have a milestone or like I said, something good happens in a game, I always praise God and just am like, thank you for letting me be able to do this and to be here. Even when I'm frustrated, that is one thing that pulls me out. Even if I'm mad at the umps or the teammates or the opponents or whatever, I always, when I'm asking for peace, thank God for giving me the opportunity to even be there, just so that I can like show my Christian faith even when it's hard.
Yeah. And three big things I really got from that is A, how humble you are in there, and then just how good of a mentality that is on praying, taking a couple of deep breaths so you don't regret everything or anything.
Yep.
And then just, you can't control the refs or other players, and that's one thing that's hard about team sports is it's not all you. You have to have faith in the other players and trust that they're going to make their plays. And just those are three big things that I liked from that and that are definitely big things for me.
Yep.
Okay, so what spiritual disciplines do you rely on to maintain your faith during the grind of training and competition?
So you know how every game and opponent are completely different. It doesn't matter if you're playing the same team twice, your opponents have either grown or they are more tired or whatever the case may be, they're different every single time you play them. And when you think about the games and your opponents, sometimes you're like super confident. You're like, I know we can win. We'll beat them easily, and you just have this confidence about you that you might start to get a little bit arrogant, but you just like I have to take a minute and I'm like, okay, be humble, Jordyn. You can't get this mindset, otherwise it could go completely wrong. And then the other games you're like, oh my gosh, they're really really good. How are we going to get through this? Like, what can we do to actually win? And even then you're still like, they're really good. It's going to be a really hard game. We're probably going to lose. Um, well, I sit down before every game. Like I said, I put a Bible verse on my wrist. And so I sit down and I think about this game or the opponent that I'm going to play, and I have to think about what I can do. Because, like you just said, I can't control what everybody else does. I can't control what the umps say, what happens on the field. I can control what I do. I can control how I approach my teammates, how I act on the field, how I play, what my mentality is. I'm not always able to control the outcome of what I do, but I'm always trying to just keep that mindset that I have to control my effort and my attitude. Um, and so when I'm thinking about these games, I think about what I need to do for this game. And that is the verse, like that word is what I look for in my Bible verses. Sometimes I'm thinking, okay, we can win this game. I'm super confident, like I said, but I have to be humble. So that's the word I look up in my Bible. I look for Bible verses that say to be humble or refer to something like that. And then that is the verse that I put on my wrist. Other times it's be diligent, keep working. Even if this game gets hard, you keep working. And like I said a couple minutes ago, give the glory to God. You have to, even if you, like, again, if you're super confident, you're like, okay, we can do this. I can't take all this on myself. I have to give praise to God. I have to make sure that everybody knows that I'm not the one out here. I'm the one out here for God. I'm not out here for myself. Um, and like anything else that I have that I need to think about for that game. But those three are the main things that I did. I think I did a couple of those like 5 or 6 times throughout the season. But I did a couple other ones I just can't remember off the top of my head. So I just always remember to like look at my wrist whenever I feel tense or whenever I'm super excited, make sure that I am doing whatever is on my wrist and making sure that I'm continuing to follow that and to be a player for Christ.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit deeper into the wrist. Have you ever had like in games have like the opponents or even a teammate ask about it or ask about that verse that has led to something? Yeah, that has led to anything.
Well, so what it was on my team, one of my teammates caught on that I was writing something on my wrist every time, and she started doing it with me. She always came over to do her hair sometimes, and so anytime she did, whatever verse I put on my wrist, my mom wrote it on her wrist too. And I thought that that was really cool because then I got her to go to a couple of church camps with me and go to church with me, and it grew my relationship with Christ and with her a lot. And then I had another player ask me every game, all right, Jordyn, what verse you got on your wrist today? What does it say? What are you trying to think of? And all these things. And so it was just a really good way for me to be a witness on the team. And it didn't get to all the girls by any means, but it definitely got to those two for sure and a couple others that I was pretty proud that I was able to be a witness even when there was nothing out there that was like all about God or anything like that. Like it was just a completely different scenario, different setting, and I was still able to bring God into it, which I thought was really cool, and I will continue to do every time I play for this team and other teams.
Yeah, that's awesome, and how just little things like that can lead to big things, and how that can gain confidence in your faith, and so cool. Okay, how do you navigate being a Christian in a team environment with diverse beliefs?
Well, so I'm from a small town in Iowa, and so there really aren't many, like, there really isn't any diversity here. And I am extremely fortunate that I get to play under the coach that I do because she is our FCA leader and she is a super, super strong Christian. And so it makes it a lot easier for me to be forward in my faith. She actually just recently asked me to lead a prayer, or told me that I was able to lead prayer circles before every game or practice or any time that I felt like we could use one. And said that I get to lead the FCA program for our entire softball team, which I am super excited about because it's just another way for me to witness to the team, for me to show my light of Christ on that team. And so what I'm saying here is that I really don't deal with any diversity on the team or in my town at all. But I still try to show everyone around me that I'm a Christian by my words, by my actions, by my attitude, by like how I stand on the field, how I act and everything on the field. And I try to share my beliefs to everyone through through my prayer circles and through FCA and through my Bible verses and any other way that I can. I'm really trying to nudge it onto my teammates and my opponents. So
Yeah, that's awesome, and I love. Yeah, have you ever felt nervous or oh, I'm kind of? Do you have some nerves in you that are oh, I'm kind of, yeah, nervous be leading FCA stuff?
Sometimes, but my attitude that I think of when I go about it is these girls, it's not like I'm forcing them to stay. I will really push. I'm going to be constantly throughout the practice or the game or whatever, hey, there's FCA tonight. Will you please come? Because I feel like if I ask them personally, it's a lot harder to say no, which that's how I am. If somebody comes up to me personally, it's really, really hard for me to say no. So I'll probably go up to most of the girls personally and be like, hey, can you come here? And can you please come and try this? Come once, see how it is. And so I get a lot of nerves when I feel like they aren't Christian or they might not be as strong as I am in their faith. So that builds up nerves. I'm like, oh no, I have to go push this on her, but I know it's going to help her. So I'm going to try. And it just but then I start to pray about it again and God gives me peace and he helps me do it and helps me to get through it. So I don't feel a lot of nerves when I'm leading the FCA or the prayer circles or anything like that. It's more of just the anticipation building up to it that I get nervous for.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's an awesome level of confidence that you have, and excited for you when that starts happening. Who in the Bible do you most relate to as an athlete, and why?
So that's a difficult one. I would probably say David because there are several reasons. Number one, when David went to fight Goliath, not many people knew he could, but he had faith in God and he trusted God all the time and was like, okay, God, you've got me. You can help me. You are in control. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to trust you and do everything I can. And that is exactly how I feel when I'm playing on the field. It's yes, I do get frustrated and I go away from that at times, but I try to pull myself right back to that mentality you're the one that's in control. I can't control everything out here. So I'm just going to give it my all and I'm going to trust that you will put the outcome that you need. And I know that whatever the outcome is, you have a plan for it and you're going to use it for something. And I might not even know it within the next week or year, but I know that he did something in that time that was needed to happen. And so it's just I feel like I try to be like David when I'm on the field. My goal is to trust God like David did in that fight. But then the other reason is that when he became king, he was extremely young. His dad didn't even bring him to be chosen because he didn't think it could be him. He was so young. But in the Bible, it talks about your young ones, the youth leading the older people because they have the strongest faith. They don't worry, they don't overthink, they aren't constantly concerned or challenging what God says. So they have the strongest faith. And so it says in the Bible for the youth to lead. And on my team, I'm super young. I just played as a freshman this past year, and I was one of the leaders on the team. I led through thick and thin, and I really that was my biggest goal for this past season was to be the leader. And I had no idea, I didn't really put together David's story until after a couple months after the softball season ended. But I was like, oh my gosh, it says this in here. So I'm really glad that I was able to pull through, because that's one thing that my mom talked to me about all the time was being a leader young, because everybody's supposed to trust you because you don't overthink and you're not always concerned or worried. So I would definitely say David for both of those reasons.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good answer, and that's very beneficial for me to hear before basketball season, and just to go in having that mindset, and I'll definitely use that. And that's, yeah, great 2 ways to put it. So what kind of spiritual legacy do you hope to leave behind through your athletic career?
So that's a good question. When I think of my athletic career, I think of softball. I think of both the teams that I'm on. I'm on a club traveling team and I'm on my high school team, like I said. So the legacies that I leave will be completely different on both teams. For example, my travel ball team will not continue once I graduate. Like once I graduate, the team is done because we're too old. We can't play anymore. We won't have any time. And so the legacy that I want to be leaving there is on the players that I play with or against. Any person that I see, I want to leave a legacy with them, and I want them to consider me as the leader on the team and as a player of Christ that always has a good attitude, that always is open about her faith and always willing to talk to you and share with you. And so just like on my high school team, which I'll explain in a minute, is I want to be someone that they can look at to be like them, like they can have faith and always be willing to trust me and to come to me when they need help or advice, or even just to talk. And after our softball days are done, by being forward in my faith and listening to God and doing whatever He tells me I need to do, and having the courage to actually go through with it and to be the one that pushes that on them, not hard, but just that good nudge that will help hopefully pull them towards God. So the legacy I want to leave there is with the players remembering me as a player for Christ. And on my high school team, that will continue even after I'm gone. Like that will come for years and years to come, because even after I graduate, it's still going. It's a high school. And so the legacy I want to leave there is on the program and the culture and the girls I play with, but like the program and the culture will always be there. I want to be the one that will start the prayer circles, and those prayer circles will continue on for years and years to come. Like I want younger girls to be able to be like, that is so cool. I want to carry this on. I want to be the one to still preach this. And I want everybody, whether they're younger than me or older than me, to be able to look for me, like I said, for guidance or to trust me or just even to talk to me, and I'll listen. And I want everybody, like I want the players to hopefully want to follow in my footsteps, to want to be the one to lead FCA, to be the one to lead the prayer circles, to be the softball player for Christ, and to have the open faith that I have. Like, I want to be the one that the coaches talk about, even after I'm gone. Look at how she impacted this program, how she helped our program be more forward in our faith and things like that, because our coaches can't talk about that because we're a public school. So I want to be the one that can share that on the team. So, like I said, I'll leave 2 completely different legacies on both teams, but in a way, they'll be the same, because overall, I want everybody to think of me as a softball player for Christ. Whether I'm on or off the field, I am a player for Christ or a child for Christ.
Yes. Awesome. That I love how you put that into 2 different ways, and it really helps me too, and I'm sure a lot of other people listening, because just how your school, it is a culture thing, a player thing, but then your AAU, it's just the players, because those coaches, they're probably coaching because they have a relationship with somebody on the team or they're just in that program and you don't know how long they'll be in that. It's not like they're going to be there years and years to come. And then you have just how the differences between the two and just the impacts you can have in between the two is so cool. So how does your faith help you manage the pressure and expectations that come with being an athlete?
So my faith and my mom tell me that I am so much more than just a softball player. I'm a child of Christ. And I have some really cool coaches and parents that always remind me of that. They're constantly telling me, you're fine, you're so much more. Like, you are everything and a softball player. So when the pressure builds up and I get overwhelmed while I'm praying, I'm constantly reminding myself, I'm not just a softball player. I am so much more than that. I am a Christian. I am a leader. I am a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. All these things that define me. And softball player might help build me up to who I am, but it's not who I am. So I that just, it helps me so much to be able to stay calm and to continue to play for that audience of one, like the one that I'm here for. I'm not playing for the people in the stands. I'm here playing for the one that gave me the gift to play, gave me the strength to play. And honestly, growing in my faith and being more bold and outspoken has helped me tremendously through, it has helped my mental toughness on and off the field. It has helped my physical strength because I'm so much tougher in my head, again, on and off the field. And so a couple of years ago, when I would walk up to the plate to bat, if I had 2 outs, the game was on the line, I needed to hit the ball because we were down. I crumbled and never succeeded. Like, you knew before I even walked up that I was not going to be able to do this because I was so scared and insecure and anxious and all these things. But since then, between FCA, being under coaches and parents that remind me that I'm so much more, I have grown in my faith tremendously and gotten perspective of everything. And now I am way more confident in myself. I am able to pull through and do what I need to do for my teammates, for God, for my family, because I know in the end, whatever I do might help the outcome, but the outcome is what God wants it to be. All I can do here is give it my all and remember that I'm a child of Christ. I'm so much more than a softball player. The number one thing that I am, like I said, is a child of Christ.
That's awesome, and I love how you put that and your identity and what you are and how you said that even as a softball player, that makes your identity, but it's not you. And just what you are in God and just the people that you have in your life that are helping you and encouraging you and telling you that is just awesome. And that leads us to the next question. What advice would you give to somebody struggling in their faith?
So I would tell them the same thing my faith and my mom tell me. You're so much more than whatever your worldly name is, whether it be a sport player like basketball player, a softball player, a track runner, anything like that. You are so much more than that. Whether it be, I'm just a friend, I'm her friend, you are so much more than that. Or whatever anybody is naming you, you are so much more than that. You're a child of Christ. Like, if he didn't want you to be, you would not be there. You are there for a reason. So always remember that you are so much more than whatever you think. I would tell them to do everything for God. Like I said a couple minutes ago, we're here for one person only. We're not here for the people sitting across the room watching us. We're here for the person that put us here. We're here for God. And whatever we do now will affect what we do after we die, whether we go to heaven or hell. It all makes a difference. As long as we are doing it for God and not for the ones watching us, we are doing it so that we can get to heaven. Like that is the end all be all goal. And so I would just tell them to always remember that there's so much more, and do it for God. Doesn't matter what everybody thinks, do it for God.
Yeah. I love how you kind of put that in, how you handle it and just mixed it up, and how you would explain it as just how you're handling it. And that's awesome that you have that advice, and I'll definitely use that during season 2, and just, yeah, good stuff. Okay, last question. How do you stay humble in your faith while pursuing excellence in your sport?
That is a very good one. So softball is a team sport. I'm sure you know that. So even when I have success on the field, I always have to remember to acknowledge whoever helped me do that. Like whether it be I got an out. Very, very rarely can you do that by yourself. So you always have to remember to congratulate or to be excited for whoever helped you, or your teammates when they get a great thing. You always have to remember that you're celebrating with them and for them, and you're not the only one out here. You can't be like, I'm the only one that did that, like I made that happen. That is, like, for me, I cannot do that. I have to always remember to give them praise and to tell them how great they did. But then I also have to remember to give the praise to God, because like I said, I can't do this without him. Like I physically and mentally cannot do it if he's not here. And he's the one that I'm doing all of this for. So it just helps me to keep the focus off of myself when I'm thinking of others and when I'm thinking of God. Also, like the verses that I put on my wrist during the games, like I said, some of them are about being humble to the Lord. And that always reminds me that I couldn't be doing this if he wasn't here. So there are just so many things that, whether it be something someone says, whether I look at my wrist, a lot of the times it's me looking at my mom when I'm upset or when I just did something great and she's like looking at her, she's giving me, the mom look, be humble. She's so excited for me, but we're also excited for whoever helped me to do that or for whoever else did something great. So it's just always what I have to do is to always think about others and think about how they did that and how God gave me the gift to be here, and give the praise to God and congratulating everybody else that had to help in that play.
Yeah, way to be humble in that way, and encouraging teammates, and just going back to changing the culture and how you can, even in encouraging others, that's a way that you can leave a legacy. That's a way that you can change culture, and just so cool. And thank you for doing this again, and hopefully it works this time. So we'll see. I've been just eyeing certain things like audio and that kind of stuff, making sure it doesn't go wrong this time. So thanks for joining.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Good luck in the rest of your seasons, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, see you, Jordyn.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the One Goal Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. If you like this video, please subscribe for more content, and can't wait to see you next week. See you for now.